Good. Yeah. 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 Doug.
And I'd like to let you know why we're here. Arlene will talk about that a little. Why are we here? Why are we having this meeting tonight? Secondly, what have we done all along up until now? We will have three panelists who will be sharing their stories with us. Where are the deaf educators? My, your, and our story time. You will have the opportunity to share your stories for a little while, and then Arlene will take over for what we will do next from here on out. At the end, we will have a question and answers. The chat box is closed. Save your questions, jot them down, and then we will have a Q&A that you can feed it into. We would like to stop before 9 o'clock Eastern time. The communication system, what is it? We have quite a few interpreters here who will be speaking. We also have signing interpreters. We also have Spanish interpreters. We're going to have to be catching up on everything, so have a little patience. It might take some time for everybody to take turns. It's just really important for you guys to sit, listen. If you don't feel comfortable with some things, jot them down and we can discuss those and save those for later on. We will have the opportunity to discuss those with you guys and what the expectations are. Okay. So my role is the moderator. I work here at Gallaudet University as the temporary chief bilingual. The president, Roberta, she knows that I'm here with you guys tonight, and she's very excited and she's motivated to be involved with this. She's working close with Congress, just as I am, and we want to fight for deaf education. The other two people are from the Leclerc, so far, the National Center.
They muted us. My goodness. Probando, probando. ¿Nos oyen? Does anyone hear us? We're not getting any audio feed here. No podemos escuchar nada de lo que se está diciendo. Y la pantalla de la persona que está hablando está pequeñísima. De modo que no tenemos manera de hacer una interpretación si no oímos o vemos nada.
Interpreter voice check.
Ahora sí.
Test 1,
Yes.
2.
Ahora sí
Interpreter
estamos
voice
escuchando.
check.
Sí,
Test
ahora
1,
sí.
2.
Podemos
you
oír.
hear?
Testing,
Sí,
testing, 1,
podemos. We
2.
can hear you. Yes. Now we can hear you. Se puede oír ahora. Perdona, problemas técnicos.
Arlene is saying, sorry for these technical problems.
Ahí se está disculpando por los
Let
problemas
this just
técnicos.
be another example of
Otro
the
ejemplo,
failures of deaf education. It's
lo que
in
sucede
crisis.
en
It needs help.
la educación de los sordos.
And it's been going on for too long.
Necesitamos mucha ayuda.
That's
Algo
why
que ha durado
we're
mucho
getting this
tiempo.
panel together.
Por eso
to
es
address
que
it.
tenemos que enlazarnos uno al otro.
The issues
Los
that our
problemas
moderator Lee
que,
mentioned
que
are happening now.
la señora Lee estaba
And now
discutiendo, está sucediendo
I'm
ahora
experiencing
mismo.
the same struggles.
Y yo también
We
estoy
need to transform deaf education.
tratando de cambiar la educación de
You
los
can't
sordos.
do it without us.
No podemos hacerlo solos.
I'm pissed off. Really. I'm trying to keep,
Estoy enojada, realmente estoy
my
enojada.
language nice, pleasant, but
Estoy tratando de
Lee, go ahead.
controlar mi idioma, como hablo, pero vamos a ver. La doctora Lee, por favor.
So back at that 85% statistic,
Estábamos
excuse me,
hablando,
interpreter Lauren Sims. Lauren.
vamos a regresar.
Yeah, so let me go back to where I
Vamos
was.
a-
Thank you for backing up my
¿A
slides.
dónde estábamos?
No, not there,
Ah,
not
mira.
quite.
No,
One
no,
more.
no, ahí no. Una más.
Next one.
La
Next slide.
próxima, la próxima.
Great. Okay,
Ahí.
there. That, stay there.
La
Stay there.
educación de los sordos falla.
That's great. So when Arlene asked me if I
Entonces,
was interested to be
cuando Arlene me
moderator,
preguntó si yo quería
really
moderar
inside in my own mind, in the back of my mind,
adentro
and
de mi mente, muy
my
profundo en
role
la mente
of what I
mía,
do professionally Anyway, so from my experience, I had to develop this mentality of being a survivor and getting through all that. And I want to see it be better for the future generations. It shouldn't be this small, isolated group of marginalized people. There needs to be persons of color in leadership. There needs to be deaf representation in leadership, and the deaf children and hard of hearing children today need to experience that representation. I mean, for me, in my experience, it was lonely. You know, if you ask me, when Arlene brought that up, did I want to be a moderator? Did I have that enthusiasm and that passion to fight? I had a burning desire, absolutely. And working in deaf education, you know, there's been some things, case by case, individual success stories, absolutely. And I think that's why we are all here today as leadership and saying that deaf education is failing, period. So what are we going to do? If we could please have the next slide on the PowerPoint. I'm just waiting for our slide operator professional. Let's see when that next slide comes up. There we go. Great. Perfect. So that's it. So, you know, we've already done all of these interventions for deaf education. And I'm warning you, this next slide, what you're going to see year by year on this timeline, what people have done, the bills that have been proposed, the laws that have been passed, everything on paper, so well documented. Yeah, no, that was successful on paper, but where's the evidence in life? And there's plenty of blame to pass around. You know, what did the NAD do? They didn't do anything. What did this group do? What did that group do? But really, you have to watch with an open mind and just don't read ahead, but just wait until we show the information piece by piece to build this bigger picture.
Tawny Holmes-Cobb.
Thank you. Is the person who constructed this very complex timeline that shows everything that we've been doing. I want you to watch this for just a few minutes, and then our slide operator is going to bring us there. If you look and try to remember from 1965 all the way back to 1965, so many different attempts have been made, you know, to improve the state of deaf education, and you can see it there. Just go ahead and look at it for a few moments. Take it in. Okay, and there's more. There's more to come on the next slide. Again, year after year after year. See the trend? So all of this activity that we don't even know has happened before us. All of this recognition that the communication isn't happening. There's still a disconnect in the community. It's really hard to do this kind of work, to propose these bills. Some of them pass, some of them fail, but
Well,
there's more.
just
There's
a
more to come
moment.
in the next slide.
Maureen. Lorraine. This is Arlene speaking. She's saying, would you mind holding a moment?
So this is what we need to transform from that. We need to do something new. And we need to just jump right in. Oh, what? Sorry, what was that, Arlene? Lorraine, people can't see you. So if you could tell me what it is. Okay. So a lot of people are giving comments and feedback that you are too small and you're on the side in a side-by-side view. The speaker has to be larger, and there's a lot of comments and feedback. So I'm going to try to explain it to our commenters about what's going on. So people can't see Lorraine because the video box is too small and up in the corner. And you have to go up to the top right corner on your Zoom screen at the View tab, and then choose Side by Side and Speaker, and click that, and it should increase the size of Lorraine as she's presenting. That should help resolve this issue for everyone who's sending that feedback. Okay. Lorraine again. Okay, so remember, up in that right-hand corner, it's up to you guys as the audience and participants to click that view and pick from the drop down side by side with the speaker highlighted. Yep, Arlene, yes, you are doing great. Just go up to that view button in the upper right corner on the Zoom screen, and you can change that setting for side by side with speaker highlighted. And I hope that will satisfy all of the comments and the feedback. Lorraine, yes, I know not everyone is familiar with these systems and these kinds of platforms. That's why it's important that we break through these barriers. Okay, thank you. Thank you for everyone's comments. And let's go to this next slide. Okay. See all these, we had these different proposals, and they can happen on the local level, such as in California, the Los Angeles Unified School District. They had a proposal for the district level. And then you've got proposals that can be made on the state level, the Lead K initiative. So many states jumped on board with that. And now we've got a national level. And on that level, the goal is for the world to bring in the same commentary about what we need to demonstrate the need. Can we go to the next slide, please?
Okay, so I want to explain why we've chosen these esteemed panelists that you see here. These folks have a lot of experience. They have gone through this fight. They have gone through submission of new laws. We honor these panelists. First, we have Dr. Roz Rosen, and then Dr. David Gieslin, who is the superintendent of the Indiana School for the Deaf. Unfortunately, he can't be here live, but he does have a recording that we can show. And we have Dr. Julie Rems-Smario. All of them have limited time here. They each get 4 minutes apiece to make their comments. And they'll be making 3 points to present today. And then also, what are the challenges we're currently facing and that you and the audience are facing? You're watching in today. We want to check in with how you're doing. And then we also want to discuss what's groundbreaking, how we can fight better for deaf education. And we'll be sharing all of these 3 points per panelist and discussing the challenges that lie ahead, what has been done in the past. And so please, we ask for your attention for 4 minutes apiece, and we'll begin with Dr. Roz Rosen. Over to you. Hello, everyone. I hope that you can see me and The others can turn their cameras off if need be, and the rest can pin me. So hopefully you can pin me and see me in full screen so that you can see my image better. I'm going to proceed while you guys deal with your settings. My name is Dr. Roz Rosen. And Arlene asked me to make some comments today and participate today on the work that has been done for such a long period of time now. It's difficult to summarize over 40 years of work with IDEA, the Individual Education Plan for the Deaf. IDEA.
Individuals with Disabilities Education Act.
To summarize that, the IDEA in 4 minutes is quite a challenge. So the law was passed in 1975, and the law itself was good. We don't want to over criticize. Initially, it was good. It focused on children, what the children's needs were, individual education plans, IEPs, which was fine. But not all issues were covered in the IDEA. And so we want to explain from there what has been happening. The LRE, least restricted environment, was supposed to be a place that dealt with children's emotional development. That's what it was tackling. This meant schools that were close to home, the kids were placed there that didn't have disabilities, and so that's how it was interpreted. The other issue at hand was that the other issue with IDEA was who was responsible for evaluating children and what kind of evaluation testing were they doing? Or is it biased or not? Were the teachers and evaluators actually qualified? And what was documented in the actual IEP? What were the requirements for the IEP? Were parents given the power? Were they given the proper information? The IDEA was passed in Congress and it became a federal law. But that was the goal, but actually it came down to each state's passing it. So it depended on each individual state to pass it rather than it being a fundamental federal law.
Because children with disabilities couldn't get into a regular mainstream school
with the proper supports. And so a lot of lawsuits ensued. And Congress finally decided to go ahead and pass the IDEA in 1975 because of those lawsuits.
Public Law 94-142.
And so we want to acknowledge that it started locally, but it did have some inherent challenges.
Ableism.
Such as ableism and autism. People felt, oh, sign language in school, I don't think we want that. It wasn't acceptable. So this was influencing schools' decisions, and they were more focused on
Normalism.
Being able to teach oralism, speaking, cochlear implants, and that created a huge problem. I felt, well, deaf people are fine as long as they get a cochlear implant, for example, was the thought. Regarding correct evaluation of deaf children and infants, that wasn't happening. A lot of hearing parents did not understand a lot about deaf culture. And we want deaf children to pick up ASL according to their development and their language, parents weren't aware of these issues. And the
It
parents
should be
weren't
at the
given-
same rate
they weren't given the choice.
to choose total communication.
Our point is that children deserve access to language. Just teaching individual words like shoe, ball, parrot, that's not language. We need milestones in place.
Yep.
Without those, we can't acknowledge the level of the child's education. This is not blaming the parent. This is the system's fault. The Supreme Court in 1982, soon after the IDA was established, there was a case called the Rowley case, in which they felt, oh, you know, the children in education are doing fine. They're getting B's and C's. They don't necessarily need A's. We don't need top-notch education as long as they're getting on. So we felt, well, what is it then? Then we have to let our children fail in order to provide proper supports like interpreters and provide access to the language. This is where the deaf community started to get involved in feeling like we need deaf people involved to mentor parents, to provide better supports to families. Because that decision to mainstream children, 90% are mainstreamed. Before the IDA, it was 90% in deaf schools. But where are the role models? Where are the qualified teachers for children who are deaf and hard of hearing? And we will have some of our deaf educators on this very panel discuss that in more detail soon. So as I said, there was some positive aspects of the IDEA, but it needs to be developed and expanded. Deaf children need to have access, full access to their language, to their culture, and to intersectionality, where they have a sense of their identity. And they can socialize in an environment and develop their language. So in some aspects, it was good. In LA recently, they did pass a law that's allowing sign language in school. So we're having some movement, some progress, and some positive things are happening that will continue to grow as we move forward into the future, but there's a lot left to do. And from here, we're going to move on to David, and I'm going to let him make his comments. We really need to work together. We need to work with families, with deaf members of the community, with professionals, organizations like NAD, other organizations and agencies, and also with Hispanic organizations, Latinx organizations. All of us need to work together as a team.
NASD and the Educator Certification Board. It's been an ongoing struggle.
Our goal is to make our children successful. And if they're successful, then we all win. The deaf community needs to agree on our priorities. That can't always be done, but we can choose certain priorities to focus on: infants, developing language, so that they're ready to begin their educational progress. And Julie Rems-Smario will be speaking on this. She's an excellent model, and she's developed ideas how that can trickle down from Lead K, which was passed in 20 states already. And that can move forward some bills to Congress, hopefully to be passed in the near future. There's a lot of failures in education. People criticize it and say so many of our goals are not met. Also, language deprivation is a huge issue. And we're going to be looking at that closely. There's been a lot going on, and we do have a foundation that we can build on. So I don't want to get too hypercritical. I just want to say we need to cooperate and work together. And congratulations to all of those who have made things happen. And thank you to Arlene and to Laureen for making today's event happen. Those are beautiful tips, Laureen is saying. Thank you so much for your comments, Roz. You can go ahead and turn off your camera. And now we're going to move on. Patrick, I think you're ready to set up what is needed for Dr. David to, and again, I want to reiterate that unfortunately he couldn't be here today. So we do have a video where I will be turning my camera off and we'll turn his video on. And now we're going to be switching interpreters.
Okay, great. I am Dr. David Gieslin, Superintendent, Indiana School for the Deaf in the past. I've done work with the CSD president who couldn't be here, but there are comments about child first and setting that up in public schools and dealing with this emphasis on mainstreaming and the promise of improving education. He's been writing about looking at the child, the student, and what they need. And in collaboration with NASD and state-run organizations, we're trying to cover this issue A to Z and get things moving. There's been bills passed and moved forward for blind children and their needs
And
deafblind, and we've got that collaboration happening. But it's been many, many, many months and a lot of activity.
And a lot of money spent.
A lot of money spent, and the authority is still not there. It's still just a small group of deaf students, deaf learners that are benefiting. And there's a lot of fear interfering. We've got things going for deafblind students, and there's been a lot of activity that's established what is needed. But now how do we find a way to repurpose that success for the larger group of deaf students? And that's why I'm here today. I'm eager to set up a pathway. I was very excited last spring to be able to do this and focus on cultural skills for all in deaf education, the whole deaf community. And I want to address diversity, equity, and inclusion, supporting that as a top priority, as well as focusing on outreach and early intervention and giving support for language development and really emphasize that. And I want to focus on a least restrictive environment for deaf learners. So a language-rich environment where eyes and hands are the mode for communication. We have to talk about language deprivation and expanding this pipeline of where deaf educators get trained, qualified, and supported and brought in to the process. All of that needs to happen at the same time. And my final goal is deaf education for children to grow. And how do they do that? All these different organizations like NAD and all the big organizations supporting deaf culture need to have one unified plan, one overarching idea that brings together everything they're doing. All these different initiatives and different programs need to serve the same driving purpose. We need to have one unified strategy. That's the way that deaf learners are going to excel. And that's my recommendation. Wow. Thank you, David. That is great. Your very strong recommendation. And next, but not last, And next and last but not least, certainly, is Julie. And talking about the process of the state level and the challenges there, and her short presentation and recommendation. Dr. Julie, you have the floor. Thank you, Lorene. Thank you, Arlene, for inviting me today to present about Lead K. It started in 2013 by Sherry Farnish.
Farinella.
Thank you. And she was the national, promoting it nationally. And I've been involved since 2013 because I believe there is enough evidence of lousy results that deaf children are not achieving. In literacy, in math, they're not reaching those milestones. And something needs to change. And I believe the 0 to 5 age category is the place where we can get big improvements on those milestones if we roll up our sleeves. So this national campaign was first passed here in California, Senate Bill 210, SB 210. And how we got that set up was that we went to different state leaders where we work in California and invited them to join us, and didn't work alone in isolation, but people on the state level. This campaign was also part of President Obama's initiatives, and using community-based leadership grassroots efforts and setting up a committee in each state locally to bring up the bill to each different community. So that grassroots component is very, very critical for the deaf community. Lead K believes strongly in community initiative in each part of it. And how we set this up, well, we had a base camp, we had video training, we had community leaders come to the state and train them to show them how to have this leadership, how to approach it, legislative people, how to approach legislators in their area and get them to make decisions. And they got to do that autonomously. We empowered them to start. Thank you. We already hosted the 4 different camps. The boot camps are 2 days, and it's a lot of presentation, discussion, interactive activities, and everybody gets to have their part. And then they pass the boot camp and their Lead K team member. And we're in collaboration. ACLU was a great supporter, collaborating with us. And now DeMarco was also a great supporter of this campaign. He's known for modeling and as a TV personality. And the boot camp paid for the state leaders to have their lodging and per diem and come for the boot camp. And it was all funded. And we experienced a lot of opposition, very, very strong opposition. HGBL, they backed out, the American Speech, Language and Hearing Association. And there was pushback from different organizations that didn't share the vision, almost viewing us as, or they were extremists. They didn't see they weren't open-minded to the need. Now with 2015, with the law that's been passed, the SB 210, we've got these 3 priorities. Each family who has a deaf child born should have a promotional brochure provided to them.
Regarding milestones.
It's going to talk about those language milestones and the goals for their child. And it empowers them with the knowledge to make an informed decision about what's going to affect their child's development. and then they'll be ready for kindergarten. Now we have an assessment of language every 6 months with the Lead K program. So what happens is that if they're not meeting the milestones, something can be done instead of waiting until 14, 15, 16 and realizing the language deprivation has already done the damage. So we're giving this information for language development from 0 to 5 and what the children should be having for their milestones from birth. Over 95% of deaf children are not satisfying their language milestones for language acquisition. That means by the age of 3, they're behind, 4, 5, even farther behind. We have the data to prove this language deprivation. And to summarize, we are still working on nationally having a bill pass. Sherry and Niall went to a meeting with officials at the White House, chief disability policymakers, and we're very enthusiastic to pass this into federal law. But what happened was Trump won the election and all of this was put on hold. And we just decided to focus and work on the state level. And now we have Biden in office and we are ready to take action. So my tip would be persistence and never forget community-based work. We need to have great leadership and not have conflict, but work together, support each other, and get the system to change. I think my 4 minutes are up, so thank you. All right. All right. That was a beautiful job, Dr. Julie. From Roz, we appreciate your points. Looking, I admire you so much that now we're still in the fight. That representation and her wisdom was great. And David and what he shared, the CEASD Conference of Educators and Administrators for School Programs for the Deaf President and Principals. CEASD is a very important organization. And then Dr. Julie sharing her experience about success on the state level. We're looking forward to these different levels. Local districts are absolutely important. And if you think about that and apply it to your local area, and it can move up to the state level, and then the federal level, and maybe the world. And that's the process. It starts on the small level, and it's easy to get things through Congress, perhaps, you know, if we work together. So our next slide is going to show the fight that we're in before we turn it over to you, our guest. And I'm on time. Yeah. Okay. Patrick, if you are ready with that, and the audience, please do take the steps you need to adjust those video screens so you can see for clear communication. And, you know, it's not good news right now where we are today. Where is deaf education? Well, we're going to see. This is my research that I'm going to present in this next slide. Patrick? You can read that statistic. I was published in 2008, so this is 14-year-old data. And there's nothing new to report. There's no further good news past this data. 22% out of all the teachers in the field are deaf. And look at that, only 2.5% of the 22% of deaf teachers are teachers of color, myself and the few others. Arlene, it's a small group. And it's just not a lot. Those statistics, again, from 2008, you can guess in your own minds what you think the percentages are today in 2022. Just think about that. I have an answer, but go ahead and make your own guesses. Patrick, the next slide, please. Go ahead and read this for yourself. So why this small percentage of deaf educators actually in the field? Because of these certification barriers. They're failing to pass the certification exams to become licensed to teach. So, for example, when you take a driver's exam, you got to pass a test. And it's the same for educators. It's required for certification. It's got math and reading and writing, and it tests high school level achievement. But if you've faced roadblocks all along the way in your entire educational career,
And language deprivation.
then you are stuck at the college level and you're bound to fail because the roots of that begin much earlier. Now, I hope you can see this table here that's coming up. 2013 to 2016. Now, this was when I was a Gallaudet student, but it applies nationwide. The light colored bar means passed. The dark colored bars means failed of attempts to test and be certified as a deaf educator. 70 to 74% failure rate for the deaf educators, compared to their hearing peers having a much higher passing rate and a much smaller failure rate. So deaf educators are failing at this high percentage. Hard of hearing, about the same. Very high percentage of failure amongst those attempting to become deaf educators, deaf and hard of hearing educators. Both of these groups are having this result from 2013 to 2016. That's when I did my research. And I'm thinking today, it's worse. It's not better, it's worse. And in the next slide, we're going to look at biopic stats. So the purple, light purple means pass, the dark purple means fail. Again. So Black, Indigenous persons of color are having this high rate of failure also. 6 passing, and in 2014, and it gets worse and worse. There's years with no passing rates. And it's not a good picture. We want more achievement, but it's high failure rate. And we're wondering, is it because we don't have enough deaf teachers already in place? The percentages were 22% with the old data, and let's see what it is now. Next slide. We're going to go ahead and switch interpreters.
Do you see this slide? Ouch, 15%. So it went from 22% down to 15% currently, which is incredibly sad and very concerning. We have to fight this for deaf education. This is very upsetting, and it makes us very emotional. Hearing people are getting positions, both as educators and administrators. Where are our deaf educators in this system? It's a very tiny amount. 15% of Black and Indigenous persons of color, that's an even smaller number. This particular slide is important, like for Dr. Roz's work and David's work. They made some comments earlier. This
About
is
the idea of deafhood.
that's why we're encouraging deaf people to get together. We know consciously what's happening. We know what the challenges are. We have taken the research. Now we have identified the challenges. And it's important to understand that this is a very serious situation we're facing. We need our children to have greater language exposure. We need more administrators higher up in the institutions.
Mhm.
I think there's about 12 vacancies for superintendent positions currently in this nation. So, oh, wow, the time is perfect. We're moving along perfectly. What I'd like to do is turn it over to the audience to listen to some of your comments for the next half an hour. We want to hear what you have to say. And then Arlene can take over after that. But I'd like to explain some housekeeping rules here regarding your comments. Yes, Arlene? Do you want me to explain the rules, or I saw you made a quick comment?
If anyone wants to contact me directly, I'm on Facebook. I've got, but honestly, yes, to be supporting, right? Okay.
Thank you for that. And what I'll do is I'll go ahead and explain just some cursory rules before we begin here for just a couple of minutes. Like I just said, my experience growing up as a Black individual growing up deaf in a sea of white people definitely affects your learning. It creates numerous challenges. And we really need BIPOC folks to be in position to take the lead. And yes, there might be a little bit of interpreter time lag here. There may be some parents in the audience who want to speak. You're definitely welcome. Just be aware there might be a little bit of a lag time for the voicing or for the Spanish interpretation. So we just make sure that everybody's getting set up properly on their screen. And please just keep your comments short to about 3 minutes apiece. And the rest of us, we really want to be paying attention, listening, taking it all in, no matter if it's frustrating or if it makes you upset. And don't think that this is the end all be all. We are going to have some more of these events in the future. And we really want to be open and honest in our discussions here. And I realize there's a lot of emotions out there. People are upset about this and these issues, but it's important for our parents who may be watching, or for our deaf members of the community who are watching, to find out what's going on. You see what's happening with the Black Lives Movement that just took the world by a storm. We can do that here. Also in Iran, you see the women are coalescing. They're out on the streets. They're fighting for their rights. We can be like Iran. It's, all of us working in cohesion is a powerful tool for change. So if you're interested in making a comment, go ahead and click on the button to raise your hand. We'll try to call on you one by one. We're interested in your story. Please put it out there. Even if it's frustrating, we want to hear you. And again, you have about 3 minutes each. So I'm going to turn it over to the floor now. Hi. And I know some of you may be afraid to turn your cameras on and make a comment. I completely understand. Are you ready? So are you going to be speaking? Are you speaking or signing? Hi, can you see me? Jana, are you going to be signing or speaking just so I know, Jana? Okay, it looks like she's on hold right now. So maybe we'll move ahead to our next person who has raised their hand.
Jenna, I still see your hand raised. Or should we move to the next? No, yep, I'm here. It's me, Jenna. Me?
Okay, go
Yeah.
ahead, Jenna.
Yes. Okay. Can you see me? Oh, good. I just want to make a brief comment. Oh,
Yeah, so I just want to tell everybody to go ahead and pin Jenna on your video screen.
do I need to do something? Let me look on mine. I don't know where
Oh, you might have to
do
click
this.
on start video.
Okay. Yeah. I'll just be brief. I graduated with a teacher certification, and I grew up wanting to become a teacher, and I graduated. And in Texas at that time, they waived the test. So I took advantage of that and applied for a teaching position, and interview after interview, 4 interviews, no positive response. And I went off and did other work to bide my time. And there was another position that opened up in a mainstream program, pre-K. Oh, that was my favorite level to teach. So I got my application and my interview, and I did my signing, speaking, parrot routine to impress them, and they hired me, and it was great. But then in the fall, the pre-K student, 1 year from the beginning to the end, I saw this student learn and grow and so much understanding.
Because she learned sign language.
Because she learned sign language. And in my performance evaluation, that wasn't represented at all. And on the high school level, I begged and begged and begged to stay instead of being moved. And I said, I am a deaf educator and I need to teach pre-K. This is a huge need. And I begged, and it just wasn't allowed. So they approved my camera. Oh, okay. All right. So yeah, I asked to have my role. They wanted to transfer my role to high school and be having this student mainstreamed with an interpreter instead of a deaf interpreter. And I'm a certified teacher, and it was really depressing, very disheartening. And I just quit and never went back again. That's my story.
Thank you. I'm sure that there's many people out here who have similar stories.
Thank you.
That's heart-wrenching, and thank you for sharing. We're going to move on to Tina. Tina. We'll go ahead and switch over to you. Interpreter's got to try to find her.
Going once, going twice. Next in the line.
Oh, Tina, there you are. Hooray. There you go.
Yep, I'm here. All right. Okay, sure. I'll wait.
So let's give folks just a second to pin you.
Okay. Sorry about my background. It's not perfect.
Oh, that's fine. I see you just fine.
Well, great. So I wanted to talk about myself. I grew up mainstream, reading and writing, nothing great there until I was 14. And then I went to a school for the deaf in Kentucky. And that deaf school there, it was a revolution for me. They were so caring and so many people to look up to. And I decided, to sign English. It wasn't very good. But after school, every day, I had this communication in ASL. Numbers were a thing; they'd get mixed up. But when I went to Kentucky School for the Deaf, there wasn't a lot of the reading and writing emphasis for 10th grade level. I mean, well, there was a lot of reading and tests, and still it was a lower level.
For the ACT.
For the ACT, I got a lower score, and I wanted to go to college, and that was an awful experience with all the remedial courses and the teachers. I wanted to teach, but with public school, with being mainstream and teaching kids, it really was this emphasis on English and throwing out ASL, just throwing that away. So I went back to university. I decided to get my degree and that resulted in failures. The interpreting situation was not ideal. Having to look at the interpreter and at the teacher and at the instructional materials, it was overwhelming. And I quit and went back to community college. And I decided to take up criminal justice. And that was like my easy way out. And I really didn't like that major and didn't want to pursue that degree. And then my daughter was born, herself deaf. I was so excited. And it was like the same situation with being mainstreamed. I was having to ask for interpreters and getting turned down over and over again. And it was just left to me at home to do as much language instruction and exposure and as much as possible after so much struggle. It was an awful experience. And then in her high school years, well, let me back up. When she was in 3rd grade, found out about a deaf educator who was hearing. Of course. I mean, that just was so disheartening and crushed me, but was teaching English and no ASL, nothing. And I understood the point of English from university, but why not use ASL? And I try to be patient and get through this process and take on the approach of bilingual communication and work with it. And then we get to high school and my daughter's going to graduate soon. And she's doing all the things, to prep. Oh, I'm sorry. I know my time is getting short. Well, we just decided to go back to college, to Gallaudet, and I'm going to graduate soon with my bachelor's. And I'm thinking of going to Massachusetts for deaf education. So I'm hoping.
You can do it. You can do it.
Yeah.
Thank you. And best of luck on your journey.
Thank you.
Fantastic. Next, we have Joanna Wilson. Are you ready? Are you ready to come on screen, Joanna Wilson? Once, going twice. Okay, there you go. Everybody go ahead and hit Joanna.
I'm here. Wait. Hello, my name is Joanna Wilson.
Hold on, Joanna. Wait just a moment, please. While everybody's getting ready.
Can you see me? Okay. All right. Yeah. So my name is Joanna Wilson. One of the disability commissioners
in Oregon.
Also
an executive.
And when I was growing up, I was taught with an oralist program. I felt like that was educational deprivation because I can speak very well, assuming, I'm using my speech, but it wasn't much education. I wanted to show hearing parents that, deaf could speak and learn to lip read and all of that. So it was educational deprivation and very common at that time for deaf people. And some of the educators who would come to me at the Disabilities Commission, this is really a big problem. It's going on and it will, they will hear us recording that the legislator, will get a message. They'll leave a message, a recording.
Arlene will be explaining what we're going to do next, how organizations are going to work together legislatively to present statistics and resources. And your commission will be involved for sure. We need more of you to put the word out, and we need resources like you can provide.
I'd be happy to. I typed a question and I can send it, in my email. I sent it. Yeah. I didn't want to take up too much of everyone's time. Thank you so much for the floor. I appreciate it. Okay.
Thank you very much. Next is Robin Brooks. Robin Brooks.
Hello,
and we'll give it just a moment for them to pin you to their screens
No
and
video,
get Robin set up, technically
no
speaking.
video, no video. No, Robin?
Robin,
Hello, hello, okay, okay, good. Hi, everyone. Yes, I'm Robin. This is my sign name. I'm from California. So I just wanted to chat with you. You know, it's the first time learning about transforming deaf education last night. I just watched Arlene, the National Deaf something or other, and I was watching that presentation, and you know, her and her staff, it seemed so enthusiastic, and from Queens. Yeah. So anyway, let me back up. I'm getting ahead of myself. So I'm very strongly feel the deaf babies need, you know, language access from 0 to 5. The reason for that, and I say that, I'm not sure how much it could help you, the group here, the organization, because, well, I've already last night, you know, I thought they were going to fire me in this situation I'm in. And it was like this just one little raindrop that people need to notice how the end of how this needs to end, you know, with the oralism emphasis and deaf community and hearing and all that back and forth and all that tension. Yeah. So my comment about language, I've always believed I can successfully speak and pass, you know, but really it's not a positive. You know, I think we need to be innovative for helping deaf children and all of those priorities mentioned. But there's this sign language trauma, you know, that's part of, there's
I
a
have
great
a
video that,
you can
yeah, I
watch.
could share that. It's appropriate, but I mean, it was so surprising how selective, you know, in the video, the medical approach, and there, it's just such a small part to help. Yes, exactly that. So I was
It
talking
was meant to be.
the right person. I don't know if it was, yeah, but I don't know if you, Arlene, or someone wants to explain about that video that I saw, and I could help in some small way to use that information, because I know myself, it's very dangerous for, you know, deaf children and to speak up in the mainstream community. I mean, I'm using my own authority here.
You're living
Yeah,
proof.
exactly. Right, right. And that's how it was. And I was born into that experience. But so many hearing people, you know, if they become deaf or hard of hearing and they don't know any access to sign language, they don't have both. That's how can they be successful? You know, education, deaf education is failing us, and the
That's
system
true.
is broken. Period. I'm more, you know, I've got more to say, but I'm gonna hold back. Yep.
Thank you. I'm so
Much love.
excited. That gave me goosebumps. Thank you very much. I'm looking at the time. We have plenty of time. Carol is up next. Carol Manning. Okay. Hi, everyone. We're going to give her a moment. Hi.
Hello.
Hi, everyone.
Yay. Yes, my name is the sign name of this, and Carol Manning.
From Nebraska.
And I am just, this has touched my heart from all of the stories that have been shared, you know, for people struggling to be deaf educators, deaf blind. I'm with you. I'm with you. And it's not my background, but the focus on deaf and hard of hearing here, not deaf blind, but in this meeting, you know, like PSE in the past, yeah, the pigeon sign, and doing that test. So I passed in the national educator certification. I passed and became a deaf educator, skilled, highly qualified, and passed. And I did all of that under the hearing norms, right? So that's who I am. Including doing admin work. I'm not a teacher for the deaf or deafblind right now. It's been a big struggle to get work. But last year, I was working for NASB education, and it was related to mainstream. And I learned so much and got, so involved that the deaf educators and educational interpreters, are teaching deaf and hard of hearing students, but especially in rural areas, there's such a lack. And I have a burden, I'm responsible for IEPs related to mainstream students. I learned so much in that role. And for deafblind kids, they have no opportunities virtually, no qualified education available.
A huge problem.
Yeah, and NEB, there's administrators, there's not enough, there's just nothing on those levels. And once I worked with a few deaf blind kids from Nebraska School for the Blind, their teachers didn't know how to teach them. And they were just put in a room and left to be idle until I showed up there. And then in my next experience, it was an education thing. I got trained for deaf and blind interpreting, and it was very beneficial. And I was able to make an impact there. In Iowa, with Protactile regionally and doing that work. And then near my home, where I had grown up, my hometown, there were 5 teachers in deaf education who were hearing, 5 hearing teachers.
Oh, wow.
In
That's
deaf education. Yeah. And then interpreters running around also. And that's what it looks like in the mainstream environment. And also in the deaf schools, they're dwindling to nothing.
yes,
And
you're
there's
right.
so much of a need, and they get pulled to special education, and that's the programs, and everything is being torn down and just it's falling apart. That's the whole, big picture of what
Yeah,
happened.
It
So,
hurts.
yeah, I wanted to share that. And thank you so much for giving me the chance.
That is a story that has endured for far too long, but thank you for sharing your heartfelt words. We're going to move to Amy Cohen now.
Hello, hello,
Amy
hello.
Cohen Efron. Hi. Can everyone
Okay,
see
can you,
okay?
I'm up here. Yes, great. Hello. Lorraine, it's good to see you. I'm Amy Cohen Efron, live in Atlanta, Georgia. I wanted to let you know, I've got 30 years working in deaf education, first as a psychologist, and then I switched to a teacher for art and had to go back to school, graduate school to teach.
Congratulations.
Thank you. But I got to tell you, the message about, educators dwindling and administrators and superintendents dwindling, and that representation is true. 30 years ago, there, was some administration and leadership, and 20 years ago. But, it's been a high turnover rate. It's such a high turnover rate. Yeah. And it's caused a lot of negative problems. Yes. And it's lead teachers for deaf lead educators are disappearing so quickly. Now, my school, it's confidential, but there's 73% BIPOC population.
Children or teachers?
Less than 10%. Well, the deaf staff. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's
Oh, no,
unfair
it's not.
number.
It's not equitable. No. And the students are also BIPOC, and they want to see that representation. They want to see their role models. They don't know where they are. And I've noticed that effect on them. And then what is their motivation for learning if they're not going to achieve? Yeah. And it's all that white representation. It's just
Not
a
equality.
shared experience. I mean, I can't have that shared experience, but we need the representation. It's frustrating. It's such a challenge. And I think the testing is a form of systemic discrimination. Absolutely.
Yes,
At the same time, yeah, we, as our teaching experience goes, we're traumatized, We're
People
exhausted.
are burned out.
There's such a high turnover rate. The students are dwindling, and that's the issue. We feel just used up. You know, we need that young energy to come. And many people think that working at the deaf school is like going to Hogwarts, you know, the story. I mean, oh yeah, really. It's very hard. It's a very hard place to work.
Yeah.
The working environment, there's a lot of autism. It's so prevalent.
Oh,
It's the same thing with mainstream, of course. You expect that oppression there. But at a deaf school, there shouldn't be autism, but it's like quadrupled. It's worse. And it's from administrative levels.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
from all the state departments.
All those
It's
higher
terrible.
levels. And it trickles down. And then the last thing I wanted to say is that deaf education as of now, is it working with IDEA, with state control? I think it's time that we take our independence back. So private
Yes.
school, that's a lot of money. That idea, you know, we've got to think. I mean, I'm tired of having all of my creativity taken away and usurped. You know, we know best what our community needs, but how? And that's what I wanted to say. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Amy. I really appreciate your comments. Thank you so much. We have 5 minutes left, and I wanted to get Mark, Lisa, Susan on board. And if time permits, we'll come back to Mark Hill, and then Lindsay, and then Susan. So let's begin with Mark Hill. Are you ready to come on screen? Go right ahead, Mark. And we'll give our tech team just a moment to spotlight you and pin you to the screen.
Okay, great. Yeah. Well, no, I need my glasses.
If you're ready, go ahead and share your comments, your experience, or challenges, but just keep it summarized and to the 3 minutes.
Okay, I'm Mark Hill, president of a deaf organization here in Connecticut.
Oh, I've got to add you to our list. I missed you. I missed that information. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. What I've seen, what I want to share, what's going on with IDEA from the past, and that law, that was 19, the first time it was set up. And there was a young girl well, they should have known better for this person. Yeah.
Yes, people should know better.
And I argued and I fought back, but that was the last year that my family was with me.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but it's difficult to see you. Can you sign up a little more into the camera?
Yeah, I was with my mom, the mother with the child in the story, rather. And there was, it's important to have understanding in communication instead of pushing the child aside.
And language
the
acquisition.
The deaf child, that disability is the issue, but then they're pushed aside. And with 05, hello, Arlene here. Yeah, we're ready to discuss about our action plan. Oh.
Okay, I was wondering if we could get 2 more folks from the audience in after Mark. We'll let Mark finish his comments.
Sure.
Mark, go right ahead.
Okay. No,
Continue, please.
thank you. Okay. Yeah, so it was full in 05. And this process was ongoing with Michael.
With no milestones.
Thank you. No milestones. And we need to build more and more jobs. And for parents, they need to have more experience for language access. You know, it's not successful. It could be better.
So you got honors when you graduated? Congratulations. This is a belated congratulations.
Well, Gallaudet, you know, that's
Oh, Gallaudet.
the
You
graduation.
graduated.
Yep. And they saw me, and that day there were so many involved meetings. Yep. Yeah. With the organization. But it was worth it. It was so important and encouraging. And I look up to them both, that deaf can be successful. They can achieve too. That's what I want to say. Thank you.
Yes,
Thank you.
I would like to add your organization to our list. Certainly. Thank you very much. We appreciate you and good luck in your future journey. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Lindsay Darnall Jr., are you ready to come on screen? Again,
Yep.
just waiting a
Good.
moment for the tech folks to
Great.
switch over to you.
Hello, Lorene. It's great. Thank you. Yes, I'm Lindsay Darnell Jr. and from Nebraska. And my point from June 25th, the deaf school closed
Oh, so long ago.
in Nebraska. Yeah. So for so many years now, and what I've seen in the before and after, the impacts of 30 plus years of deaf education. I'm an activist. No certification or training, nothing official, but I'm involved and I'm invested. And those are my qualifications are life experience, you know, and Nebraska School for the Deaf, when the state decided to close it, that money was taken to 4 regional programs. And for 24 years, I was involved in trying to figure out what those regional programs were doing for deaf education and being involved in each program.
And outreach for children.
And advising for children and networking, you know, for these children. And the results, we're seeing them go to college and become part of the Nebraska Deaf Board, DVR, boys psychologist, counselor. I've seen these children succeed and achieve, and I've encouraged and supported them. And Nebraska School for the Deaf Museum,
the Heritage Museum and Cultural Center,
is the goal to set up for all of deaf experience in Nebraska to be shown and showcased, and change the, you know, systemized way people have an understanding of compassion for deaf and hard of hearing people. That needs to be changed. So we're going to be celebrating the Lead K passing in Nebraska. We achieved that one. Yep, it was great. We've got a
congratulations.
Yeah. So just this past summer, we had a big celebration about the Lead K committee finally proposed to Nebraska for decision. And we got a consensus. We got our consensus with our motive. Yep, wink, wink. And the important people for those gatekeepers, they were there. They accepted the proposal and unanimously around the room passed it, finalized it. And the two top ones for special education, I challenged them to start a discussion about again establishing a Nebraska school for the
Really,
deaf.
what was their response?
Oh yeah, we should look into that. Yeah, but after all of that and all the
Yay.
dialogue for special education, they said on the side, you know, well, we're not sure if it's the right time, but for 25 years, it's been persistent. You know, I've been so frustrated and so aggravated. And this feels like at the very end, I have hope that that is the beginning, that this ending is the beginning. So we'll see.
Thank you for being such a wonderful role model for other people. I
Oh, you're
hope
welcome,
that
of
other
course.
states, you'll be open to them reaching out to you to ask you how you did this. How did you succeed with this? Thank
Great.
you.
Thank you.
Okay, so it's 8:34. We're running a little over time, but we have one last person. Susan. If you could make it brief, Susan, and summarize your comments, that would be great. I do see Cheryl, Beth, and some others listed there. If you could please hold, and we'll move on to Susan. Is Susan on?
Hey,
Yeah.
yes.
Keep it brief, that would be great. And then we'll
Okay,
move
I've
on to
enjoyed
Arlene.
seeing everybody's comments. I've learned so much. I just wanted to let you know I'm deaf myself, and
I was
I've-
born deaf.
I was born deaf, been deaf all my life until, you know, this conversation in 1998. It's not a negative. It's not a, but I was disappointed that the deaf NAD, you know, they decided about the Helen Keller decision. Yeah, all that stuff, all that mess. And then they were going to shut it down. And they set up the disabilities on the federal level. And we have our rights, and we have to speak up and make decisions for ourselves and not have it be controlled, you know, by the hearing mainstream, and pass that first. I think then the other things would be easier to, you know, improve deaf quality of life. And I'm hoping, you know, I'm 70 years old, so I've had enough of it.
Here, I'm
I've had
70
enough.
as well.
Yeah. And the community and the hearing community, you know, have just passed me by. And it's just this mix of disabilities with deaf, and it feels like we all have that common shared experience. The deaf doesn't, it needs to be thought of differently than a disability.
Yes.
It's not, it's a sensory loss, you know, that's just my opinion, but it's up to you how you think about it.
And I similarly would like to add you to the list, to the CP program, and there's different terminology out there that is being mentioned. I want to make sure that you have access as
Sure,
well.
sure.
So I'm going to put that on the list.
Sure, great.
Thank you
great.
so much. For now, we're going to close out the comments, unfortunately, for lack of time, and I'm going to turn it over to Arlene. She's going to explain what the action steps are. And Patrick, who's handling some of the tech, can you make sure we're side by side, and we're making sure we're recording this for future access and making sure that you all have the floor. We're getting close to wrapping it up, but for now, we'll move it to Arlene.
Thank you. Okay, great. This has been a lot. I'm trying not to, okay. Can you see me? Am I up? Yeah. Hold on here. Let's adjust. Is it clear? I'm really just, it's heart-wrenching at this point. You can see the reason why your stories, my stories, our stories, it's so impactful. The stories we share. And I hope the interpreters can follow me. Thank you. Thank you to our interpreters. Oh, wow. I need to take a breath right now. Your stories are powerful,
Painful.
are painful. Really, I'm shocked.
I feel like crying.
I'm trying to hold back. I know, because I know how you feel. In deaf education, it's mean. It's not easy to be in this field as a professional. Whew. As a BIPOC, as a deaf woman, and having to push back
I'm
with
here.
people. There's so much discrimination. My children are half white, and you hear, there's the dominant community, white people haven't done anything to change the culture. And to me, as a BIPOC, as a Puerto Rican woman, fully Puerto Rican, that's what I identify as, and Lorraine as a Black woman, we are pushing for change. You tell me what it takes. I'm saying this again, and I'm using my voice. Hello, my name is Arlene Garcia Gunderson, and I can speak. I'm hard of hearing, and I can hear pretty well. So don't you mess with me, because I am fed up with the deaf community who has to really be hurting each other. Please stop the infighting. That's what I call that, infighting. Infighting is not okay in our community. And I want to hear the stories, but deaf people against deaf people has to stop. It has to stop. We're killing each other in the education of deaf learners. We have to get along. We have to get along with each other. It doesn't matter if you don't like me. It's not about that. It's about deaf education, deaf and hard of hearing education. I'm going to stand strong about that. Hey. Let her larger. Yeah, let it be open larger. Go ahead. Mm-hmm. Sure. Yeah, go ahead. No, I can't. I can't do it. You have the control.
Hey, I just want to alert you that time is running out. So could you get to what we're doing in terms of next steps, and perhaps the next slide?
Maria,
I'd like to inform our audience what we're planning on doing next, if you have time, and perhaps with the adjoining slide. Okay, thank you.
okay. Yep. What we can do together. Okay. What kind of plan? We can move forward. I just ask
Susan,
to help us with pushing this movement. What do we want to do next? Let us know. You know, I'm here. So I'm waiting. Maya, could you see where, can you open that up? Yeah, I'm open to comments, but sometimes we need an action plan. Nothing? Got nothing. Oh. Wow. That's I have 300 people watching this.
hi, the chat is disabled, so I just wanted to let you know that we can't even type our comments.
Oh, you want it? Are we going ahead with the comments now? Go ahead on the chat. Hello. Oh no. It looks like I'm not having a good connection now.
Maybe we can just move on to the next slide and show them the graph, since we only have 5 minutes left.
Okay.
We can move forward.
Yeah.
So I'll be speaking. This is Lorene for the tech team. So we're going to proceed because we do need to close out by 9. Arlene is going to work with Maya and others. And now we're going to discuss what we're going to be doing with Dr. Roz, David, and Julie. Our panelists have all mentioned the importance of camaraderie amongst us. You know, just like spokes on a tire, you need all of those spokes for the tire to turn, to roll, and to move forward. When you see a bicycle, you see those spokes rolling and the person can venture forward. But if those spokes are broken, then no movement can happen. You just become a stuck mechanism. And as Arlene mentioned, there's a lot of infighting. And when that continues, it makes it very difficult to succeed. Of course, our fragile emotions are a part of this. Just like with Black Lives Matter, do you think everybody was in support of that movement? No, it also experienced some infighting. Some people felt like the goal wasn't correct.
But they shared the common ground on police brutality.
But wow, you saw how many people in the community took to the streets and marched. How much they discussed it, how much they supported it. And I feel like the same can happen within the deaf community. Rather than fight with one another, we need to work together as deaf individuals. Of course, you know, a highly emotional state might be natural sometimes, but we need to be in agreement so that we can set our goals and move forward. We are a smaller group, But that's okay, we can still succeed. And as I said, I've been making quite a list with CP and all the various agencies. On the next slide, Patrick, if you could move on to the next slide, we can show you some of the items on this list. And believe me, there's a lot more than this. There's an artist group, a deaf artist group who are in support of us. The National Deaf Freedom Organization, Deaf and Hard of Hearing Consumers Advocacy Network. We have the National Disability Institute, Gallaudet's Leadership Institute, the Boomy Leadership Institute, Deafhood Foundation, and
There's
there's
more
even
next.
more on further slides. See all of these organizations? So what's important is that you become familiar with these organizations. There may be some out there that are working against us and might be your enemies. But perhaps we can befriend them and get them to work with us. Next slide, we'll show a few more. So wow, that's quite a list for just a small community of us. There's an outcropping of organizations and agencies out there. And imagine if we could get all of them together to work on a common goal, how powerful that would be. We lose a lot of our energy fighting one another. We understand that there's anger, there's frustration, there's historical pain. Next slide, Patrick. So what Arlene did was she set up this slide so that you could see the strands of deaf education, and in our hopes that you get more involved. There's Lead K, there's educating parents of deaf infants, there's college level, there's all kinds of fights out there that are happening. And we need more deaf leaders as well in higher positions within education in that framework. And we will be putting all of this information on our website. We're hoping that you'll get involved, that you'll continue to support. Next slide, please. So this is a continuation of the previous slide. There's a lot of information here. If you're thinking about how you can get involved, please roll up your sleeves and do so. We need you. And we're getting closer to wrapping up. Arlene will be making the final statements. And so what is the domino effect exactly? What does that mean? It means when you are fighting against each other, you can't see the big goal. You see that right now there's only 15% deaf educators. So that's such a tiny amount. And if we continue that infighting, we can't move forward. We can't be successful with creating change. There's so much language deprivation happening, so many issues with all the various programs out there, a lot of deaf people who are taking our positions and our power away from us. Again, 22%, based on my research, of deaf educators out there is not enough. We have to keep going, and we have to work with one another on this journey in order to get there. It's important that we all collude with one another to be successful in this fight. We want to reach higher numbers of deaf professionals in the educational field. This is so vital. And so please take a look at yourselves, which I know sometimes can be hard. Sometimes it's hard to get along. But like Arlene said, we have to stop the infighting. That's a really strong message that we're putting out today. And I completely agree with her. Next slide, please. Let's try to climb up this mountain together. It might be a high mountain, but the more we hold each other's hands and we help each other up that mountain, we can arrive to the peak, to the top. This is 25 years of a lot of deaf children suffering in education. Lead K was a light. It was adopted in several states. So all of these lights are starting to occur. More positivity is happening out there. And I want you to see in particular what I say in the next slide. It's not light that we need, but fire. It's not the gentle shower, but a roarous thunder. And that's why we want all of you to become that thunder, to make noise out there in the world, so that we're not just individual pockets out there, but that we're working together and we can convince Congress in the end to do what's right. And all of the individuals who have been involved in this fight throughout the years, this is quite powerful. Our knowledge is powerful. And if we come together, we can shake the earth with that thunder. Unfortunately, our time has run out here. All of your comments will be saved. And all of the groups that were mentioned, we will be creating an FAQ, frequently asked questions and answers. So before we close, I have one last slide here that I wanted you all to see. It's somewhat of an advertisement.
National campaign. A conference.
The National Deaf People of Color Conference is coming up in 2023. And as we mentioned, children of color are not well represented in schools with deaf professionals teaching them. There's so much language deprivation happening amongst BIPOC people in particular, I'd say. And this is a very important event. We're encouraging all of you to be a part of it. It's not just white people that get to be the leaders in this society. BIPOC folks are behind. And we want to change that, where they are taking their rightful place in front as leaders. So this is the flyer with all of the registration information. And to the right is the assessment fall lecture series with all of the information. For now, I'm going to go ahead and close it and turn it over to Arlene for her wrap up. Arlene, yes, we understand you're emotional today. We're here and we support you. Our work has not ended. We're continuing this fight in friendship.
Yep.
And we love you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you,
I'm
Lorraine.
signing off now. Goodbye, everyone. Over to Arlene.
Thank you, Lorraine, for moderating tonight. Thank you, Roz, David, Julie, all of you for being a part of this important change. Ooh. As a BIPOC person myself, it's really impactful to me.
I'm light-skinned, I look white, but I am a professional Puerto Rican.
My family moved to New York from Puerto Rico. And I want more BIPOC support for tonight and for this movement, what we're doing for deaf education. Transforming deaf education is not a simple, easy thing. It's a big task. Thank you for being a part of this. Thank you to our interpreters, to ZVRS, to Purple, Tim, many of you supporting me through this. And I want to take a breath and say that this is a movement. Whew. As a BIPOC person, I want to support from the Black community perspective, from the Latinx, from the deaf community perspectives, Asian deaf community. Please support us in this movement, because deaf education it's very dangerous. Hearing people right now all over are taking down our education. That is not okay. No. I'm making that movement. So my name is Arlene Garcia Gunderson, my sign name. And I live in South Carolina. I've lived in the West for 20 years, and then I moved to South Carolina, to the South, for Scott Falcon, who is on the board. And this board, it is honestly, there's no name, but I'm naming it right now. Scott
Falcone.
I'm naming names. It's
He's
mean.
been cruel.
It's been cruel. And I am
A coda.
I want to speak up.
To research who he is.
I say, I come from a deaf family. He says that's his first language, and he's not using sign language. Okay, time to go. Goodbye, everyone. Thank you. Have a good night.
This was great, so great, says Mario Hernandez. This was awesome.
Oh my gosh.
Kisses to you.
Oh my gosh.
More power to you. I love this. Come on, everybody, let's go.
Wow. Okay.
Say
Bye-bye.
bye.
Bye-bye.
Rob says, this is great. Thank you.
Okay.
Love you. Thanks so much.
Lots of illies and goodbyes.
Love you. It's time for
Thanks.
this.
Good job. Wow. It was great. Good job. Great. Thank you. Thanks. Bye. Goodbye, all. Lots of love.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye. Thank you, Leanne. Thank you, Leanne.
Thank you, Lorene. Bye-bye.
Right. See you guys again. I'll see you again. Whew. Thank you all for coming. Thank you so much. Much love. Thank you all. Thank you for coming. Goodbye. Bye-bye.